asking, can Jesus or Ananda comment on Donald Trump's motivation to have Greenland, Canada, Panama Canal, and perhaps even Mexico as part of the USA? His willingness to use potentially military for this goal surprised me, since he has seemed to be against starting any new wars and pro and for peace in this world.
You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. As you may recall, we have told you that many, many things are going to be changing in 2025, and that it is a watershed year. What you are witnessing here, despite the newscasters' take on it, and you must remember that most mainstream, uh-oh, are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I heard something, sorry. You are blessed beings indeed. We will get back to it. Our dear one heard a noise that brought her out of trance. We want you to understand that your mainstream media is always going to have a left-leaning take on anything that Donald Trump does. What we want you to understand is that there are nefarious players on your planet, and nefarious players on your planet are constantly moving the chess pieces around. You do not see the chess pieces being moved around. You have, like a piece of furniture that seems to be made of solid oak, what you're looking at is a piece of furniture that has a very thin oak veneer. Underneath it is not something of such high quality. So what you are seeing in your take or information that is coming out about these things, you are not seeing the depth of the machinations that are going on your planet. You, in fact, have a global government at this time. You could see it during COVID, when every single country, bar a few, agreed on how to treat something within just a few days of each other. This is evidence that your national boundaries, the way you think of them, are not what you think at all. All of these countries that shut down and locked people away and got on the same bandwagon have spent a lot of time orchestrating these kinds of things. You did not see them, and yet all of you think that you know what's going on in the world. You do not know what is going on in the world. There are far deeper chasms that you have not dreamt of going on in your world. So when you see somebody playing this game of Risk, there is this board game that used to be played where you could take over countries like pawns on a chessboard. You are coming at it from a very, very shallow, thin veneer aspect of knowledge. There are aspects of the global government that do not want America to be free. From a spiritual point of view, the founding fathers of America left Europe, fought for freedom, and set up the documents that set up the United States with a great deal of experience and knowledge. And the country of the United States was in fact set up to be based on freedom and the pursuit of happiness. This had never been done in recent history at all, by any country at all, because of the dark net that has been thrown over your planet, the ego's thought system. But this does not mean, of course, that there are not highly evolved beings who come down into your shadow lands and have the assignment of shining light. So there are beings who come down into your shadow lands that have the job of shining light. This being is one of those. Carol Morgan is one of those beings. But the founding fathers of America were such beings. They had seen the oppression, the disease and the disaster, the cruelty, the murderous nature of the European system, the African system, the Middle Eastern system, and they came with honest hearts to a new country to set up something different. The documents that founded America are indeed spiritual documents, believe it or not. Some of you that are from other places have not experienced America. Americans have in their hearts a true belief in freedom of speech and freedom to be and do and have whatever you want. And that is as it should be. It is not what it has been portrayed to be and what it has, in fact, inadvertently become. A warmongering society where powerful structures have been hijacked to make America appear to be something it is not and was never intended to be. What you are witnessing at this time with this revolution that is happening, and it is indeed going to be a revolution, is that there are going to be power plays by the United States newly elected government that will be easily portrayed as negative because of the conditioning and propaganda that the globe has been through, and because of the hijacked systems within the United States that have done negative things that seem to be unloving and cruel. Wars, for example, these kinds of things. But what you are witnessing is, in fact, a genuine attempt to return to the spiritual documents upon which the United States was founded. And it is in the hearts and minds of Americans who believe in their country and believe in freedom, who believe in free speech. And you can see this coming up across the world, this idea of free speech becoming more and more important, more and more spoken about, let us say. So that is what you are seeing. But in your old world media systems, you will not hear this story. You will hear the story of the megalomaniac. You will hear the story of the empire and taking over places. This is not how it's going to go. But there are strategies at play at this time to consolidate material resources, to consolidate strategic lands, to continue on this particular path of, believe it or not, ascension. So the Second Amendment in the United States Constitution was put there not so that everyone could carry a machine gun, but so that the people could defend themselves against the government. Those beings that set up the system of the United States understood that governments become corrupt over time. They become monstrous beasts that feed themselves and take from the ordinary people. And that there comes a time when they will try and take too much and go too far. And the idea of the Second Amendment, as counter as it seems to the ascension process, is that the ordinary person will be able to say, no, that is enough. We are not going to do that. You are not allowed to take over our lives. So these are things for you to consider. And as the chess game becomes more and more complicated and intense, which we have told you it is going to, and it will, you are going to see these things arise out in the world. And you are going to have to go inside and ask yourself, where have I got my information from? Where do I get my information from? And how do I feel when I listen to my own thoughts? Sometimes you cannot believe your own thoughts because they are coming from a deeply indoctrinated propaganda program that has been residing within you for a long time. all of you have gone through, most of you have gone through your Western education system. This is a system that, for example, has quelled your free speech. It has conditioned you into compliance, to sitting down and shutting up. And it takes a lot to override that kind of conditioning program. When you are put in a school at 4 or 5 years old and you go through school for 12 or 15 years, and in that time, you are not allowed to question authority. You are not allowed to argue with the teacher. You have to sit down and shut up, move when the bell rings, put your hand up only is the only way you're allowed, that the authority figure has to give you permission to speak. You can begin to understand how difficult free speech actually is, how difficult freedom actually is. Most of you do not know what freedom is. You've never experienced it. You're codependently intertwined with people who have been conditioned in the same way that you have. And you are going to see some of these aspects of true free speech as offensive, as anger. But the truth of the matter is, most people need to learn to speak up, to be congruent, to align their thought, word, and deed. And most of you have not done it. And so this is why the rocky road of ascension is going to be a rocky road, because some of those beings who have been assigned the job to upset this apple cart of conditioning and propaganda are going to look like loose cannons. They're going to look like loose cannons. And we will tell you, Donald Trump is one of those who looks like a loose cannon, but indeed has the welfare of the average person foremost in his mind, despite his wealth, despite his history that may be portrayed as a wealthy man indulging himself. He has indeed put his life on the line to preserve the last place on earth where free speech is actually documented and supported. And we want you to know, those of you in Europe, we know that Yane is in Europe. We want you to know that this is something to be grateful for. However, some of his moves are not going to make sense to you because you do not know what he knows and you do not have his blueprint. Elon Musk is one of those beings who has an agenda behind what you are seeing. Some of you are confused. Is this man a good man or is this man a bad man who is in fact going to take over the world with all of his technology? The truth of the matter is he has in his blueprint this idea of freedom, this idea of humanity surviving. And so you are seeing through the lenses of some of your media systems and through the lenses of some of the beliefs that you hold, you are in fact seeing beings who have to be disruptors, who have to misbehave because the conditioning programs to sit down and be quiet and do as you're told have been so deeply indoctrinated into many, almost all, that is the only way that things are going to change. And so that is why it's going to be rocky. Not only is it going to be rocky because of the shifts and changes in the power structures and systems that you've been used to, but because those beings who are disrupting them will at times upset you and cause you to have to go inside and ask yourself why you are upset at this thing. So we want to bring this down to basics. When you see something happening out in the world that you don't understand, do not go to conventional information sources to try and understand it. For example, now we understand that this question, the answer to this is long, but we are going to take a little different tack this live stream because things are escalating. You can see it, you can feel it, you know it. We want you to truly understand how and why things are looking the way they are looking. For example, dear Elon Musk poking at the British government and causing them to go into fear. They're going into fear because they're corrupt. They're going into fear because they have been lying and cheating the British people. for a very, very long time. And the British people are going under for the third time. They are starting to feel if they do not stand up now, they will lose their country completely. And that is true. And this is what the motivation behind Elon's pokey pokes, his nasty little comments are. It is to rile up those beings in Britain who, more than anyone, and our dear one will attest to this, who more than anyone have been told to sit down and shut up. This is the culture. Do not speak up. You will be cut down by your compatriots, your fellow countrymen, if you get above your station in life. This old class system has to fall. And that is what it is about. The upper class system has been lying and cheating and corrupted for a very long time. England is really the heart of the beast in that way. It has sent out its minions over centuries to quell any dissent around the planet. And now there is what we would call karma coming back, not because God is dispensing karma, but because the ascension is underway and the system will not be allowed to continue unless everybody complies and gives up their free will and says, we have no power. You do whatever you want to us. We will succumb. We will get down on a knee and we will do as we are told. And those beings that are in Britain at this time have never left. There are many, many strong-willed, freedom-seeking beings who have exited that country. There are many beings there who have in their blueprint the need to stand up to authority. That is why they were born into a country with this kind of authoritarian system. And these are the games that are playing out now, and they look difficult and catastrophic at times. But from a spiritual point of view, these beings wanted to have an experience of overcoming. They wanted to have an experience of overcoming, perhaps in other incarnations. They had done as they were told too many times. They lost their way. They were telling the story that they were victims. And in this end of a spiritual season, they are being given one of their greatest challenges, which is to take their country back. So that is what you are seeing playing out there. You are seeing the end of a spiritual season. You are seeing the blueprints playing out of everybody. And so we want you to think about your blueprint. What have you not yet broken free from? Breaking free is an important process. Breaking free of conditioning from your family, breaking free of conditioning that you have taken into your mind and empowered with your divine creative nature. And you will know that it is not coming from spirit because it won't feel good. It is not something that is enlivening you. It is not something that is encouraging you. It is something that is like a wet blanket that you have allowed to be put over your vital, fiery life force. You all have 24 hours in a day. You all have been made in the image of the divine. You are powerful creators. But if you put your powerful creative nature in a box, you will suffer. And this is what we want you to look at in your own lives. Look out into the world, understanding that this is a revolutionary time, but look in your own life and ask yourself, what have I allowed to be a wet blanket over me? What do I need to break free from? And what box have I put myself into? We apologize for the long answer.